Don't turn off the Atlanta Braves just yet. There are plenty of intriguing things to watch in the second half of the season. I'm going to give you my top 7 storylines to watch the rest of 2025 on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at shortstopball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're new, please hit that subscribe button. You're already there. Hit that thumbs up button and leave me a comment down below to help out this show and help us continue to grow there. Over 14,000 subscribers on YouTube, but the majority of our listeners still come from the audio side, and you can help us grow there by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And as always, thank you so much for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. A lot of kind comments coming back from vacation. People excited to see me back on the podcast. That always makes me feel great. It makes this grind of a job really worth it. And I do enjoy it. And I'm going to tell you especially why today, because I'm going to give you 7 reasons why you need to continue watching the Atlanta Braves in the second half of the season. We'll get into all that on today's episode, which is always an exciting time to get back into the second half of the season is what's coming up the rest of this week. I got an exciting guest for you on Thursday night. We have our mailbag episode on Friday. So still some good stuff. Again, don't leave us just yet. Appreciate your support. Appreciate your attention here at Locked On Braves. Now, I'm going to give you my top 7 second half storylines. And to be honest, I started at 5 and the list just kept growing. And I probably could have done even more. I wasn't sure how I would feel going into this exercise. Obviously, it's been a bit of a bummer of a season for the Atlanta Braves. Feels like a lost season at this point. But as I started thinking about it and thinking about the second half of the season, there's still just so many reasons I have at least to watch this team. And I got some of yours as well that we'll get into later in the episode. But let's start with my number 1 reason to continue watching this team, and the biggest storyline for me, or the top storyline for me, maybe not the biggest, but the top storyline for me in the second half is, can they make it interesting? I'm sorry. I know. I see the comments. I read the comments. I know many of you have waved the towel. I know I myself, I've tried to wave that white flag as much as I can on this podcast, but I can't give up. I can't give up on this team at the All-Star break. I can't give up on them before the September. It's just not in me. Now they need 48 wins the second half to get to 90 wins, which is likely what it's going to take in this year's National League to get one of those 3 wild card spots. That's a 48-19 record the rest of the way. That seems highly, highly unlikely, especially with the inconsistency we've seen from this offense and now the injuries to Schwellenbach and Chris Sale. You look at some recent seasons and some good second halves that teams have had. The Padres went 43-20 last year after the break. The Dodgers 42-23, the Diamondbacks 40-25, and the Mets 40-27. In 2023, the Dodgers went 49-24 after the break. The Orioles 47-26, the Braves 44-29 that year. Of course, they were good all year in 2023. In 2022, the Braves went 45-23 after the break. They need that kind of run to just have a chance in the postseason. The Dodgers went 51-21 that year. The Astros 47-24. In 2021, the Dodgers went 50-21 after the break. The Giants 50-23. The Cardinals 46-26. The Yankees 46-27, and the Braves 44-28. So a lot of wins for a lot of teams in the second half of 2021. And then going all the way back to 2019, the Astros were 50-22 after the break. The Dodgers 46-24. The A's 46-24. Mets 46-26. The Cardinals 47-27, and the Nats 47-27, and the Yankees 46-28. So, point being, there's usually a handful of teams that play 20 games over 500 in the second half of the season. Problem is for the Braves, they need to play about 30 games over 500 in the second half of the season in order to get close to reaching a postseason spot. But I can't give up on the team just yet. Do they have a couple of hot streaks in them in this second half? It's a pretty tough schedule out of the break with the Yankees and Giants, but it's a pretty favorable schedule in the second half overall. Their toughest stretch actually comes at the beginning of September before a pretty soft end of September. But at the beginning of the month, they face the Cubs twice. They face the Mariners and the Astros at the beginning of September. That's going to be a pretty difficult run. I'm not predicting that this team's going to get hot again. The inconsistencies of the offense doesn't give you much hope. But as a fan, I would love to see them at least make it interesting. I'd love to see them get within 5 games of a postseason spot going into September. To let us have some sort of hope going into the final month of the season. And yes, some of this is selfish as somebody who does a daily podcast about this team, as well as a postcast after every game about this team. I would love to still have some hope and something to cheer for and get excited about in terms of wins and losses the rest of the way, and that these games on the field and the results just aren't meaningless. So some of this is selfish, but I'm also a Braves fan, and I want to see my team win, and I want to see my team give me something to hope for. So that is still the number one storyline for me, is can they at least make it interesting? Even if they don't make the postseason, can they at least make it interesting in the second half? And at least going into the final month of the season, can they be within 5 games of a postseason spot and at least have a puncher's chance? Now, the flip side of this is that maybe it's not the best thing for this franchise long term. If this is a lost year, and you're throwing in the white flag, and I know the players aren't going to do that, is it in your best interest with a very good 2026 crop to just continue to lose and hope that you get a top 10 pick next year? It's not, I'm not saying the team would do this. I feel pretty confident the players wouldn't be on board for this. And it may not matter if they just continue to play as poorly as they have, but there are some pretty good shortstops. And I know they just took a lot of shortstops, but there are some pretty good players in the top 10 of next year's draft. And the Braves haven't had many opportunities to get some of those players. This could be the opportunity for them to do that. But as a fan, me personally, I want to see this team give me some hope and a reason to care about the results on the field the rest of the way. So I want to see them at least make things interesting. It also just feels like the pressure's off at this point. I mean, most people have already given up. So it's just whatever happens, happens. But again, I would love to see them at least make things interesting down the stretch. Maybe the biggest storyline, and at least for the next couple of weeks, is going to be what they do at the trade deadline. Now, your restricted free agents, Marcell Ozuna, but he has 10-5 rights, so he can veto any trade. Raisel Iglesias, he's still owed over $6 million, has had a rough season, so I don't know how much value is there. And Rafael Montero, who was pretty much let go by the Astros, just a salary dump to the Braves. Those are their 3 restricted free agents that aren't going to be back next year, obviously, unless they're re-signed. I don't know how much value they'd get for any of those players. And like I said, for Ozuna, I don't even know that he would approve a trade. He seems to really like it in Atlanta. He's comfortable here, likes the guys here. So you'd have to find the right fit for him to work. And I just don't know that there's great value in trading any of those guys. Unless Iglesias, gets back that closer's role and he has a lights out, rest of the month of July, he could maybe get you a pretty decent B-level prospect at the deadline, as teams are always looking for relievers, and certainly relievers that have closer experience and the track record that Raisel Iglesias has. Now, there are other players I think the Braves should at least consider moving. Pierce Johnson has a $7 million team option for 2026, very reliable setup man. Aaron Bummer, $9.5 million salary for next year. I don't know what team's really going to take that on. Braves might have to eat some of that money, but it might be worth it. Joe Jimenez, I know he's likely out for a good chunk of this year, but if, reports are coming that he's been throwing and maybe his timetable's moved up, $9 million for next year, this would simply just be to try to shore up some salary to hopefully have a big offseason. And then a couple of maybe controversial ones in Ozzie Albies, who had the $7 million team option for next year, $4 million buyout. I think it would be a little ridiculous not to pick up the team option either way. Just because the $4 million buyout, saving that $3 million doesn't seem like it's worth it. Then you have a $7 million team option for 2027. If a team wanted to buy low on Ozzie Albies and they were willing to give you something, somewhat decent, and maybe even just a setup guy that has years of control, or a young guy, a young reliever with years of control, I think that could make some sense for the Atlanta Braves if they're ready to move on from Ozzie, which we'll talk about later in the episode too. And then the final one is Sean Murphy. And let me be clear, and if you listen every day or on the podcast, I've been on the Sean Murphy trained for a long time, and I like Sean Murphy. I think he's one of the best catchers in baseball when he's been healthy. But if a team was desperate for a catcher, I'd at least listen on Sean Murphy. And I'm looking at you, San Diego. You want to give us, 2 or your 3 best prospects for Sean Murphy to find your catcher for now and the future? I think you got to listen. So again, I am not in favor of just trading Sean Murphy to free up room for Drake Baldwin just because you have Drake Baldwin. I'm perfectly fine with having Baldwin and Murphy, especially if the DH spot is more open going forward and into next year. I'm perfectly fine with having both of those guys. But some teams really struggle to find catchers. Braves got 2 of them. San Diego, who's obviously in the postseason hunt and can be really aggressive. AJ Preller, a really aggressive GM. If he wants to give us Leo DeVry, I mean, who am I to say no? So again, not saying they need to trade Sean Murphy, but I'm definitely would be listening if a team wanted to overpay and was really desperate to find a catcher. Ozzie, I would at least listen on and see what the offers are like. I mean, if they're not coming back, I would be all on board for moving Ozuna, Iglesias, and Montero for just whatever you can get, rather than just them, taking up space the rest of the way in what could be a lost season. So those are the first 2 storylines for me. I still got 5 more that I'm really excited about in the second half. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I do have some of your thoughts that we'll get to along with the rest of mine here next. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for skilled trades at Supply House. Whether you're plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. Again, that's promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com. Thank you as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Make sure you go check out the guys over at Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day, solely catching up with everything happening around Major League Baseball and dropping some history knowledge on you as well. He's one of the best in the history of the game. And the guys over at MLB Game Night, recapping you on the biggest highlights from each and every night as well. We'll be back at it over the weekend, and it should be Lindsay on there as well. So make sure you give them a subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Give them a listen on the audio version or wherever you get your podcast. Let's jump back into my top storylines for the second half of the season. And the third one is just Ronald Acuña. I mean, when you have not just one of the greatest talents to ever put on a Braves uniform, which has been stated by many former great Braves players at this point, but one of the most talented players to just put on a uniform, period. And that may sound kind of crazy, but when Ronald has been healthy, which unfortunately he's had some major injuries that have held his career back from him being, just even a more mega superstar than he is. But when you have a player like that on your team, it is must-watch TV. And like I said over the weekend, I was on vacation, but when Ronald came up to the plate and I was, it was near my phone, I turned it on to check it out, to see what Ronald would do. And that's just the type of player he is. It's the reason I've watched so many Angels games over the last 10 or so years, is because Mike Trout, I believe, is one of the best players in the history of the game. And every time that he's up to bat, I want to watch it. And it's the same thing for Ronald Acuña Jr., who just also happens to play for my favorite team. But I'm also curious to see how he holds up over the rest of the season, how much of the Rays play him the rest of the season if things are out of control and they don't have a shot down the stretch. Does the running come back? Is it worth it if the Braves are out of it? Does he continue to bat, in second, third in the order, or does he go back to the leadoff spot? And how much FWAR can he accumulate in what might be 110 games? if he plays the majority of the games the rest of the way. He's already at 2.3 F4. Can he possibly get to 5 F4 in a 110-game season? That would be pretty incredible. So one of the biggest reasons to continue to watch the Braves in the second half is Ronald Acuña Jr., one of the best players in all of baseball. Now, my fourth storyline for the second half of the season, can Drake Baldwin win Rookie of the Year and help the Braves gain some draft capital? We talked about if the Braves are out of this year, they get a chance for a top 10 pick next year, might get a chance for another pick as well if Drake Baldwin were to win Rookie of the Year. Look, it seems pretty obvious. Trying to think of a nice way to say this. It seems pretty obvious that the Braves need to play Drake Baldwin as much as possible the rest of the way. Not only for his future development, but also to give him the best chance to win NL Rookie of the Year. For a while, he was the clear frontrunner for NL Rookie of the Year, but now you look over at FanDuel's and Jacob Mizorowski, who has burst onto the scene, made the All-Star game. I know it was somewhat controversial, but he's there. He's in, the big picture. He's a media darling, and he's doing great. And now he is the favorite to win NL Rookie of the Year, according to FanDuel. So, and it is a two-player race between Mizorowski and Drake Baldwin, but you need to give Drake Baldwin every chance to win this award the rest of the way. And just so you know, in case you're not familiar with what the draft pick compensation is for this, there is a prospect promotion incentive, PPI, says that a player who accrues a year of service time as a rookie and then either wins Rookie of the Year or finishes top 3 in MVP or SI can qualify for a comp pick after the first round. To be eligible, prospects have to appear on at least 2 of 3 top 100 prospect rankings released by MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, and ESPN. And I know for a fact that he was on at least 2 of those lists entering 2025. So Drake Baldwin, if he were to win in a Rookie of the Year, would give the Braves a comp pick in next year's draft. And that would be really huge for the Atlanta Braves, like I said, especially if things continue the way they are and they get a top pick next year to get another pick on top of that to just expand their bonus pool money. Could be a big draft for the Atlanta Braves in 2026, but hopefully they give Drake Baldwin as much playing time as possible to help him win that in a Rookie of the Year. That'd be a big storyline here in the second half of the season. Now, my next storyline is what young starters, relievers get a look and which ones look good. The rotation is wide open at this moment. At least until Schwellenbach and Sale come back towards the end of the season. It's Strider, Holmes, and Elder. And, honestly, you could replace Elder. If he struggles in the second half and you want to give somebody else a chance, I think you could replace Elder. Holmes, again, if the Braves are out of it, and even if they're not, you're probably going to have to limit Holmes at some point in this second half, even though he's been so good for you. I'd imagine they're going to cap him out at around 150 innings. You're going to need some young guys to step up in the rotation in the second half. Now, you could go with the Davis Daniels of the world, the Nathan Wiles, like we've seen, but why not just give your young guys a chance? And especially one in Hurston Waldrop, who, I've been very consistent in saying, don't rush him back, let him continue to work on things, but I feel like now's the time. If you're going to give Hurston Waldrop another chance this year, I feel like now's the chance. He's gone at least 5 innings in 10 of his last 11 starts, showing you that consistency to be able to go deep in the ball games. However, 2 of his past 13 starts, he didn't make it out of the first inning. So there is always that worry with Hurston Waldrop, but for the most part, he's given you good innings over the last couple of months. And though the walks are still an issue, he's walked at least 3 in 5 of those starts. But it feels like it's time to give him another shot. In 10 of his last 11, he's given up 3 earned or less in 9 of his last 11. So again, he's been pretty consistent. He's already on the 40-man roster. He's made some adjustments to his mechanics as well as his pitch mix. He's gone away from the splitter a little bit more, focusing more on that slider. Those adjustments have gotten him better results at the minor league level. It hasn't made him a more dominant pitcher. He certainly is not as dominant as a pitcher as I thought he could be with the stuff that he had, but he's got better results, and that's what you want. And maybe it's time to see if those results and those mechanics and everything can translate at the big league level. So I think it might be time for Hurston Waldrop, because he's already on the 40-man, because the Braves have such a need, and because he's pitched much better this year overall. I think it might be time to give him another chance. The AAA rotation right now is just pretty wild and has some really good arms who are knocking on the door. We've already seen Didier Fuentes, I just talked about Hurst and Waldrop, but J.R. Ritchie just got moved up to AAA. You have Brett Sears, who's been really good this year at the minor league level for the Braves. Blake Burkhalter's up at AAA. I think all of those guys are knocking on the door. Like I said, I think Waldrop, it's probably time to give him another chance. You got J.R. Ritchie, who I think probably should be next in line. Blake Burkhalter, I've talked about before. I think he's already probably one of the better bullpen arms in the Braves system, including the major league level, but maybe they give him a shot as a starter too. Brett Sears, probably more of that back end type of guy. We've seen what Didier Fuentes has, no disrespect to the 20-year-old, and I'm not out here to give you a Mark Bowman tweet type of joke here, but he just wasn't ready. And it's clear that he wasn't. Doesn't mean he doesn't have great stuff and won't be a good pitcher one day. But I think we should see some of those other guys get an opportunity here, and even more too. Lucas Braun, I think, is another name to watch out for. So I think we could see a lot of young arms get an opportunity in the rotation here in the second half. And there's also a ton of interesting bullpen arms as well. We've already seen Dylan Dodd and Daysville Hernandez, who I think probably should be in the bullpen already. But then you got Hayden Harris and young Carlos Lara. And hopefully I'm going to get to the minor spotlight. I promised to get to it yesterday, and I didn't. But hopefully we'll get there today. Lara's been really good as lately. Roldy Munoz has big stuff too. My number 6 storyline is, what does the offense identity look like? Does it matter if they're going to have massive coaching overhauls in the offseason? But this has been my sticking point for a little while now. I don't really care which way they go with it, but figure out what your offensive identity is going to be. And as much as I have been the guy that's wanted to see a more well-rounded offense and not just this boomer bust approach, I feel like if there is any hope left in this season, you got to go back to just being aggressive and swinging for the fences, because this in-between approach right now that the Braves have just isn't working. So I'm on board with just going back all in on power and being aggressive and just trying to hit as many home runs as possible. Now, the counterpoint to that is, if you want to try to continue this offensive approach going forward and in the coming years, you continue this the rest of the way and see who fits that approach, and the guys who don't, maybe you look to move on from them. And then my final one, and maybe the most intriguing one for a lot of you out there, is what happens at second base. If Ozzie's struggles continue, and when Austin Riley comes back, does Nacho stay on the roster, and does he push Ozzie Albies at second base? If they don't straight up trade Ozzie at the deadline, which I know I said that they probably should consider it, and I think they should. I highly, highly doubt that they will move him, but I am curious to see if he struggles, if Nacho gets an opportunity in the second half. And Nacho's profile really is more for a light hitting second baseman, average type of second baseman. Second baseman can kind of be type of anything. They can be, kind of boomer bust, home run types of guys, but it doesn't really fit the profile at shortstop defensively. He doesn't fit the profile at third base offensively. I think second base is probably where he belongs. And unlike with Vaughn Grissom in years past, where it was a given that there just wasn't going to be playing time for him at second base as long as Ozzie's healthy, I don't know if that's the case anymore. So we'll see how that plays out in the second half if Ozzie loses that hold on second base and if Nacho's able to overtake him, and what that means going into the offseason. So those are my top storylines going into the second half of the season. A lot more to I think get excited about for a team that's 11 games under 500 and sorely disappointed. I still think there's a lot to be intrigued with. So next, I want to get into some of your comments as well, what you're watching in the second half, and then I'm going to try to quickly get to our minor spotlight from last week. We'll do all that here next. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all the money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. In Monarch Money, it's not just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. It's so annoying trying to keep up with money in many different places. Monarch Money can help you put that all in just one place, so you can see all of your money right there. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever as well with Monarch Money. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Yes, I said 50%. That's monarchmoney.com. Again, code LOCKEDONMLB, and you're going to get half off your first year. All right, so we're going to move quickly through this. Get some of your comments because a lot of you had some good ones on this question of what are you watching in the second half. Joey Milby, I still think they have a shot. I've watched this team get scorching hot in July and August when I had all but given up. Am I expecting it? No, of course not, but I won't. I don't rule it out either, which leads me to what I'm really watching for the rest of the way is Nacho a dude. Even when Riley comes back, can Nacho help us at second base? Can Ozzie regain some magic? That's kind of what we talked about. Can Michael Harris fix himself, or does he need to go down? What young pitcher is going to come up and show? And lastly, I'm looking for when do we sell? So a lot of those were ones that we looked at here too. Cavs Buckeyes, Acuña adding to his Hall of Fame case. I know we're a long way from this, but if he's able to get a 5+ WAR season and a season that he missed so much time, that would be great progress. Other than that, Baldwin getting us a draft pick and whatever pitchers they call up later. John Saunders says to see what moves at the deadline they may make, see what kids come up in the second half and what impact they might have in 26, see if they move Nacho to second base after Riley comes back, and see if they send Harris to Gwinnett. That's one storyline that many of you mentioned I didn't talk about, but what does Michael Harris do the rest of the way? Do the Braves have to send him down, or do they just let him continue to battle it out at the big league level? Hayden Harris, anything Ronald Acuña Jr., can Drake adjust to the league after they adjust to him? Any young pitcher brought up for the minor leagues, Profar living up to the contract and find the offensive identity. Dave Vesey, excited for the second half, but basically treating it as a glorified spring training. I want to see whose performances warrant them being on the 2026 roster. I think that's a pretty good point and something to watch for again, especially if the Braves just continue to lose. And Sporting KG, will we be able to fix MH2? Also, I know we will see flashes of team's potential and wonder what could have been. And I'm fine with that as long as they keep us in it the rest of the way. All right, I do want to get to the minor spotlight real quick, though, from last week. Ed Gwinnett, Eddie Zliner, 6 for 21, 2 homers, a walk, and a stolen base. Luke Waddell, 6 for 16, a home run, 5 walks, and a stolen base. Another potential option for second base in the future. I don't think he's an everyday guy, but could get some playing time there. Pitchers at Gwinnett, Wonder Suero, 2 2/3 innings, 6 strikeouts. He finally got the call up that he deserved. Hurston Waldrop, 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, 1 earned, 6 strikeouts. He's given up 1 earned in his last 2 starts. Dylan Dodd, 3 innings, 3 hits, no walks, no earned, 5 strikeouts. Probably needs to be back up in the bullpen. Jackson Stevens has been really good lately. 3 1/3 innings last week, just 1 hit, a walk, no earned with 5 strikeouts. Blake Burkhalter, 5 innings, 4 hits, did walk 3, but only 1 earned run allowed, 4 strikeouts. Didier Fuentes back down to AAA, 2 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, 4 earned, 3 strikeouts, and you just really hope the kid's confidence isn't shot at this point. I mentioned Giancarlo Lara, 3 innings, just 1 hit, no walks, no earned, and 3 strikeouts last week. He had a 4-walk outing on July 4th, but in his other 7 appearances since June 17th, he's walked just 1 batter. That's a pretty good sample size for Giancarlo Lara having good command. And if he has good command, there's nothing stopping him from being an elite reliever at the big league level. At Columbus, David McCabe, 9 for 21 with 3 doubles and 4 walks. He's slashing 275, 370, 399, 769 on the year. Obviously a big power bat like that, you'd love to see a higher slug, but remember where he's playing in the Southern League, which is one of the worst leagues for power hitters. Geraldo Quintero, 6 for 19 with 5 walks and 2 stolen bases. Ethan Workinger, 6 for 22 with a home run and a stolen base. And then on the pitching side, I saw Mass Booze mention Landon Harper earlier. Through 8 innings, 4 hits, no walks, no earned, 8 strikeouts, had a 2.64 ERA and a 102 whip this year in 64 2/3 innings with 70 strikeouts. So another pitcher at the AA level has been impressive this year that could get a chance in the second half. Jose Cuas, 3 2/3 innings, 1 hit and 6 strikeouts. Brian Moran, 5 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts as well. And then Lucas Braun had 2 starts this week. I'm not really sure why he had 2 short starts this past week, but 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, no earned, 1 strikeout, and then 3 innings, no hits, no walks, no earned, 3 strikeouts. So combined, 7 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, no earned, and 4 strikeouts. Like I said, I think Lucas Braun is pretty close as well. At Rome, Lisandro Espinosa, 7 for 26, 3 doubles, 2 triples, a walk, and 2 stolen bases. Keyshawn Ogun, 6 for 16 with 2 doubles and 3 walks. On the pitching side, Cedric D. Grand Prix, 6 innings, 3 hits, no walks, no earned, and 8 strikeouts. Herrick Hernandez, 4 2/3, 2 hits, did walk 4, only 2 earned, but 7 strikeouts. Logan Samuels, 4 innings, 1 hit, 1 walk, no earned, 4 strikeouts. Adam Mayer, 6 1/3, 2 hits, 3 walks, did hit 3 batters, but no earned runs and 3 strikeouts. Ryan Barassa, 2 innings, no hits, 1 walk, no earned, and a K. And Jacob Kroger, 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 walks, 2 earned, and a strikeout. At Augusta, Isaiah Drake, 6 for 15, a double, a homer, 4 walks, no strikeouts, and 3 stolen bases. No strikeouts in a week for Isaiah Drake is pretty huge. Luis Guanipa, 6 for 18 with a double and 2 walks. On the pitching side, Ed Augusto, Juan Sanchez, 2 games, 3 2/3 innings, and 8 strikeouts. Raven Antonio, 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 walks, no earned, 7 strikeouts. I just picked him up in my dynasty league, so I'm bought into Raven Antonio. Owen Hackman, 6 1/3 innings, 5 hits, no walks, no earned, 7 strikeouts. And Jeremy Reyes, 6 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, no earned, and 6 strikeouts. Cam Caminiti with a bit of a road bump, 4 innings, 3 hits, 2 walks, only 2 earned runs, though, and 3 strikeouts. At the FCL level, Jose Perdomo finally had the week we've been waiting for. He went 7 for 18 at the plate, 1 double, no walks to 2 strikeouts. So maybe just being a little bit more aggressive, but a good week for Jose Perdomo. That's great to see. Hopefully he can build on that. Junior Garcia went 4 for 6 with a homer and a walk. On the pitching side at the FCL level, came in good, 5 innings, 1 hit, 2 walks, no earned, and 5 strikeouts. Then you got a couple of rehabbing guys there in JJ Necro, who had a good outing, but Drew Hackenberg, 1 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 walk, 5 earned, and 3 strikeouts, not so much. And then at the DSL level, after a slow week for Diego Torrens, he turned it back on, 7 for 20, 2 triples, 8 walks to 5 strikeouts, and 4 stolen bases. And then Roddy Reyes had maybe one of his best outings of the year, 4 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 2 earned, just 2 strikeouts, but again, got some pretty decent results. And then quickly wrapping things up here, I know I'm going rapid fire, but Braves have already signed several of their draft picks, including their first-round pick, Tate Southesine, to a $2.6 million deal, $1.36 million under slot. Alex Lodis, they signed to $1.3 million, more than $220,000 under slot. Cody Miller was under slot. Cardo Lavaz, Logan Braunschweig, Cade Woods. They have signed 6 players already. This was the last time that I looked at it earlier this afternoon. And with those 6 signings that I just mentioned, they had already saved over $2.5 million, which they're going to have to spend big on Briggs McKenzie. His slot value is $500,000, almost $600,000. They're probably going to have to go close to $2 million, if not more, for him. And then Connor Essenberg, they're probably going to have to go a good bit over his slot value of $438,000. So the Braves already getting some work done, already saving some money, trying to sign those high school players and Briggs McKenzie and Connor Essenberg. Of the reviews I've seen for the Braves draft, Briggs McKenzie, which is the one, main pitcher they took early in the draft, is getting the most hype so far. All right, that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Thanks so much for joining me here live. David Thatcher, Lee Webb, Mass Boost, Live S, Nicholas C. Appreciate you all joining me. Doc's Cards, 15K by the World Series. That would be a lot of fun. Hunter Lacey as well. Thank you all for joining me on today's episode of Locked On Braves. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.